Welcome to the Power Network Monitor mod, an add-on as part of what I call New Player Plus. This formal collection of these mods is in progress, but their aim is to improve the new player experience, not by cheating or other sus methods, but by bringing information to the player that is otherwise not readily available. There's a ton of information for GTNH, tons of guides, videos, wikis, spreadsheets, flowcharts, but nearly all of these require the player to go out of the game and look something up. Sometimes it's just in-game information that we want, but it's not readily available, specifically in the case of your Power Network. For players new to GTNH or modded Minecraft, they have an immediate curve to climb as they enter the LV age and try to figure out how to power their newfound machines, only to find out that they have a brownout. They're not sure exactly where their power source can provide with its measly steam supply. Do they have enough steam storage? How long can their basic turbine run right now with what they currently have? Why are machines running out of power that are connected to a generator that seem to have adequate power to give them? Many more questions the new player might have. Frustration sets in, and GTNH gets put to rest, and unfortunately, they go back to all the mods 10. Well, this mod has two purposes. One, bring that information to the player that can be accessed in one place regarding their network. And two, bring wiki information in-game through GTNH, a new feature in 2.9 that brings guides straight to the player. This mod is still very much in development. I'm building it as I develop my infrastructure in my own 2.9 base, and thus far it's developed for basic LV and MV ages, including the electric blast furnace. I'll continue to add components and test things as I progress, and if you'd like to see something specific, feel free to drop a line in the comments, and I'll see if I can prioritize it. All that said, here is the Power Network Monitor mod. It starts with a Power Network Monitor cover. Each tier will require the requisite circuit of that tier. Not something ridiculous, but a fair price for the info that you will get. Each cover only works on its tier cable. Like GT machines, if you place an LV monitor on an MV bus, bad things will happen. Once on the bus, the screen is activated by sneak right-clicking, and this will bring up your monitor page. In the example here, there's an MV circuit that is powering an EBF through two MV energy hatches, and this particular circuit is a semi-fluid generator and a combustion generator on a 2-amp cable, and there's two of those going to each MV hatch. The creosote fueling the semi-fluid generator comes from two 64K tanks and 8 coke ovens. The combustion generators are manually fed from fluid cells. Again, this is part of my base progression, so these setups are temporary, but allow me to consume some of the creosote I have and start transitioning to diesel. Again, here is the power monitor. The top tells you all things directly related to power, or EU, the units of GregTech power. Current demand on the system, in this case, is 456 EU, a constant demand, met or set by the recipe. Generation to supply this demand, you'll see, is fluctuating. This is a mechanic of GregTech generators. You'll notice the generation line has a gentle wave in it while demand sits flat. That is not instability. That's the generators breathing. GregTech generators can't produce a fraction of a packet, so each one either fires its full output in a tick or it doesn't fire at all. So when the network needs less than the plant's maximum, the generators cover it by skipping burn cycles, and this wave is what that duty cycling looks like, averaged over time. Flat lines mean it's pinned at a max, you're at your rated capacity. Wavy lines mean you have headroom. In this case, we have a bit of surplus of power available in the generators, as the line below says the capacity is 512. True capacity, however, is not exactly 512 because there are losses. There are two kinds of losses in a GT network, and only one of them shows up on your wire. Cable loss is the famous one. Every packet loses a bit of EU for every cable block it crosses for cables that have loss, and all initial era cables have loss. You'll eventually get to ways to produce cables that either have no loss or at least less loss. But there's a second, sneakier one. Every machine that emits power pays a toll just to emit. Generators pay that toll from their own fuel, so you never see it. But battery buffers and transformers have no fuel, so they pay it out of the energy passing through them. That's why a network can slowly drain its batteries even when generation looks sufficient. We'll get to buffers and transformer losses in a minute, and we'll see it physically on the network. The next section is storage. This is where batteries and charge-discharge rate can be seen, as well as the internal EU tank within a battery buffer. We will revisit this in a minute also, but this section is straightforward if your discharging your generation is falling short. This will give you an estimate in time of how long you can operate. The next section is fuel. The first two lines tell you how long you can run with your reserves. First at max power, full tilt, and second at your current operating level. If the diesels had a shared tank, you would also see that like you do with creosote. It calculates how long the creosote can keep you operating and gives you current drain and addition rates taking into account the production rate on your coke ovens. Network. This tells you everything connected via cables. Across transformers too. Tells you your top 3 power draws, and in this case, only one is connected to the EVF. And then for multi-blocks, because you lose resources if they brown out, it calculates an approximate amount of recipe cycles given the current production. So you can take out some resources from your EVF if your power production is still a little third world country-ish and isn't going to quite make it through the stack. The debug exists mainly for me, but allows anyone to see where the data is coming from. It will print in text chat when you click on the debug and then question marks that appear. This feature may change over time. Some things may be removed or added as I continue to work through the pack. Last is a graphing widget that allows you to see visually what is happening on the network. Probably the most useful tools here is fuel levels and the trend that they show. You can change scales. You can place your mouse over text and it will highlight the specific value on the graph. The graph should rescale on the y-axis as it gets close to its limits vertically. Last, all of this data is either direct calculation or polled. The polling is minimized to prevent performance issues, so there are approximations. All of this is to give you a feel of the network. It may not be 100% precise all the time because of the timing of that polling. Now, a quick look at an MV-LV circuit that is powered by 2 LV steam turbines and 2 semi-fluid generators on creosote. The LV side of the circuit is lossless with 4 amp redstone alloy cables. These won't be available until you make your EVF, but it allows for a lossless LV network. These cables feed an LV to MV transformer that then feeds a few machines on an MV network with a 1 amp copper cable. Right now, there's a 120 EU recipe running on the electrolyzer. There are a few losses to discuss. First is the losses on the cable, roughly 4 EU, and then the battery and transformer, another 6-ish. Cable loss is explained pretty well in the tooltip for the cables, but the generation losses by batteries is not as readily available, but you can see it physically here. There is 64 demand on the system from these 2 batteries, but there's 66 EU being pumped out. It's an energy tax. So you can see the internal energy tanks, separate from the batteries themselves, are slowly draining power. When they reach a threshold, if available, generation will tick up. They'll refill, and the cycle will continue, never draining your battery. If generation is not enough, the batteries will eventually start to drain. This recipe can be completely funded by the LV network. So you see that the batteries remain charged and the internal buffer gets recharged by the generators. There's much more to learn, so please check out the GTNH that comes with the mod. Its default access is by pressing the letter G. More of these concepts are explained and reference materials made available directly in-game. I'll be adding much more to the guide, including railcraft, benzene, biofuels. I want to develop each one and provide in-game info for each of them. I hope this helps you climb the initial curve of GTNH power. Good luck.